Like father, like daughter. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Quisha King Show. I know you've all heard about Fani Willis. Well, I wanted to do some digging on Fani Willis. So she is the Fulton County District Attorney who is bringing these indictment charges against former President Donald Trump. Well, I thought, I had heard these things like she's a Soros funded prosecutor. She's a radical leftist. She's, all of these things. As I looked into her, I was expecting to find Fani tied to George Soros. I was expecting to find all of these gems of just all this evidence of her being this radical leftist. When I started to dig into her background, there's basically nothing there. Her father, however, was a member of the Black Panther Party, which is casually mentioned in many of these articles that are written about her. And so I was just sure that there was going to be a smoking gun to this woman being a full-on radical leftist, communist. She was, all the things, right? There is literally nothing there, which makes me question even more. Who is this woman? I haven't seen anything so a background where, she's a member of a popular sorority. Barely any pictures of that. Barely, no real records of her, her previous life when she was married. I mean, this is a time of, pretty much everybody takes pictures and puts them up. Like, this is one of the most cleanest, and I don't mean clean like finding something dirty. I mean, just like there is nothing there on this woman. There's not much information on her father. And, so the record shows like he was a part of the Black Panther Party, but he wasn't just, a casual member. He and Angela Davis opened the bank account. These people, that her father, John C. Floyd III, is an attorney himself. He would take Fani with him. He's a single parent. He would take her with him to court. And, there are, there's record of, like little bits and pieces of her life here and there. I am perplexed why there isn't more intrigue about her background. She's been a DA for 16 years in Fulton County, where she's, done sort of like regular prosecutions. And I get, I hear also that she has she's very focused on her career. She wants to, advance her career. And obviously, of course, indicting the former president of the United States is certainly a way to do that for the left. But there's no ties to these radical leftist organizations. I don't know about you, but it makes me wonder what is really going on here. And I'm not saying that there is something nefarious going on. I do think these charges are way blown out of proportion. I think absolutely they are, but something's not adding up for me. For someone whose father, my instinct is, okay, you have a father who was pretty tightly interwoven with the Black Panther Party, a very radical leftist communist group, a front group for the Communist Party, right? And he gets arrested, and he's no longer a member of the party. And then it's like poof, he's gone. He becomes an attorney, or he was an attorney. He starts practicing in Washington, D.C. Still, not much information there. All these years, not much information there. He has a client that he's representing that has something to do with the Rwandan 10-year genocide. And for all intents and purposes, Fani seems like the great prosecutor, a woman who is focused on lowering crime in a city that is crime-ridden. She, all the videos and stuff that I've watched, she seems very intent on taking down gangs in Atlanta. Targeting sex trafficking. She's actually made a lot of great progress doing that. She went after teachers who were fixing grades and the Atlanta public school system. And so she doesn't have these kind of a record that shows she just wants to let criminals out of jail, and that she wants to she doesn't have the same record as these leftist DAs. That's my point. Yeah, it very well may be that I am just being a conspiracy theorist, and I'm just looking for something that's just not there. That could be. I will take that and say, Quisha, there's nothing there. My gut just says that there's something else. I'm more inclined to believe that he groomed his daughter to be what Huey and Bobby Seale, the founding members, the two original founding members of the Black Panther Party, he groomed his daughter to be what all of them, John, Angela Davis, Huey, Bobby Seale, all of these people, what they could not be. And that is a more covert movement, working your way within the system up through the ranks. This is just my opinion. This is just Quisha's mind, okay? And taking a more non-radical approach. And then boom, you take down the former president. Because this certainly sounds like something that the communists started to do. They started to cut their hair. They started to not be as radical, change their clothes, and move into becoming politicians, which her father did run for office, assemblyman in California in the early 70s. So is she really on the up and up, or is this woman a Trojan horse? Here to discuss how the Black Panther Party operates and give us more insight into their movements and motives on, if my theory is correct, what could they possibly do and how do they typically operate? He is an expert in the Black Panther Party, Martin Luther King, and other communist front groups here in America. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Littleton. All right, Chuck. So I wanted to bring you on so you can give the people a better understanding of who the Black Panther Party was, what they were about, and why someone like a DA like this Fani Willis, her father being a member. It's reported that he was a member of the Black Panther Party out in California, which I believe is where they started. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Why that might be concerning. So thanks for joining me. And so can you give us a high-level overview of who the Black Panther Party really were?
Well, yeah, of course, like many people know, the Black Panther Party was co-founded by, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. And they were sort of like the intellectual leaders, so to speak, of the party. It all began in the Berkeley area, in the Bay Area of California, where there was already this like new, when people talk about Berkeley, California, UC Berkeley as an institution, they always talk about how UC Berkeley was the birthplace of the free speech movement. This is a thing that you'll hear, but it should be more correctly, should I say, regarded as the rebirth or the birthplace of the new left. And this is the environment that sort of fostered Huey P. Newton and a man like Bobby Seale. I think they met. They went to a junior college in the area, not too far from UC Berkeley, called Merritt. They went to Merritt College, and I believe both Huey and Bobby were mentored by another Black activist on campus, I believe, by the name of Donald Warden. Or matter of fact, I'm trying to remember, was Donald Warden a member of the faculty or was he an actual student? But anyway, and so there was a particular incident that took place on a street known as Telegraph Avenue, which, without going into the particulars, this led to Bobby and Huey being arrested. They were accosted by a police officer for being, a disorderly and unruly in public. Legend has it that Bobby Seale was, out in public reciting poetry, and in so doing, he was deliberately provoking or trying to incite or trying to elicit the attention of a nearby officer by by reciting publicly and rather loudly, so the story goes, poetry, very sort of anti-authority, like anti-police sort of rhetoric in this poetry. And so, from there, that sort of set the wheels in motion for Huey and Bobby to break away from the Black student organization that they were already members of to form something entirely different. Because, both Bobby and Huey were both, Huey in particular, he was very sort of rough around the edges, as we like to say.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, he was already, when you listen to folk, when they write and tell stories about Huey's upbringing, he was already one who was sort of like inclined, and when it comes to political theory and philosophy and these various things, although he wasn't a particularly as far as his grades are concerned, he wasn't he wasn't the top of his class, and so he had to settle for merit college, but he was already sort of politically inquisitive. And when he sort of went to, when he went to college, and then you had the Berkeley New Left, men like, David Horowitz and Robert Shear, Michael Lerner, all of these individuals in the area. This was when Huey, picked up Marxism, quite frankly, and the rest, as they say, is history. Was sort of like off to the races. And then from there, Huey and Bobby had this idea, this conception of the type of organization that they wanted the Black Panthers to be. And that's when they deliberately began to court the membership of local Oakland City gang members. And so this is what became the Black Panther Party, even prior to, a precursor to the Bloods and the Crip gang in California, was a gang called the Slawsons. And the Slawsons, the member of the Slawsons at the time, was a man who sort of has gone down as a martyr as far as Panther lore is concerned, and that is Al Carter. Al, aka Bunchy Carter. A lot of people are familiar with the story of Bunchy Carter, because Bunchy Carter was infamously murdered by a member of Maulana Karanga's United Slaves faction during a dispute they had at UCLA over, quite frankly, who would be in control over their Black student union. And so due to ideological differences between the two of those organizations, led to the death of Bunchy Carter, who at the time was the leader, and he went by the moniker, the Mayor of Watts, as the leader of the gang, the Slawsons. And they were recruited, these gang members, en masse in 1967, around about. It was Bunchy Carter and his second in command, a man by the name of Frank Diggs, who went by the street name Captain Franco.
Wow. So I have a quick, it's funny that I knew this was going to be I knew you were the right person to talk to. Okay, so listen to this. So Fani Willis, this DA, she's the one who has just indicted Trump in Fulton County about the election indictment.
Right.
She previously was the prosecutor for Young Thug and his gang. Now she is the DA. Or I'm sorry, no. I'm sorry. She was a defense attorney. She was the defense attorney for the gang, or the gang or Young. She was involved. She was definitely an attorney, a defense attorney for either. I'm not sure if it was just one of the gang members or just the whole entire group. They say that they are not. They are allegedly a gang. They say that they are not a gang, but word on the curb is it's a gang. Okay.
Right.
I find it interesting that being the daughter of an alleged member of the Black Panther Party who used gang members. Here we have his daughter being involved again, both politically and with gang members in some sense. So I just find that one of the questions I was going to ask you was, did you think that would it be a typical Black Panther Party customs for them to pass these ideas down to their children, down to their progeny? So if you could just, I don't know, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, broadly speaking, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, Elaine Brown, of course, I was going to mention her. She too was either a member or affiliated with the Slawsons. Elaine Brown was for a brief moment during Huey P. Newton's exile, when he of course fled to Cuba because of he fled to Cuba. The excuse was that because remember, and again, it's funny because they're talking about the Black Panther parties and their connections with not only the legal system but also the political machinery in California. But we'll probably get to that, and law enforcement, because Huey had those in law enforcement who would tip Huey P. Newton off when it came to certain plans, because you had other criminals and gangsters in and around the Oakland area who were constantly plotting to have Huey P. Newton assassinated because he was shaking down their operations. Wow. And so Huey P. Newton at the time, he was under investigation if he hadn't been outright charged. Remember, I'm going off memory at this point. But of course, for the murder, and many of people who are familiar with Huey P. Newton are familiar with the story of the killing of Kathleen Smith, that Huey P. Newton allegedly shot in the face and left her paralyzed for a day or a week or two or so. She ended up dying, succumbing to her wounds. Huey P. Newton was subsequently charged with murder, but during this time, it is alleged that Huey P. Newton was tipped off about a plot to have him assassinated. There was a group of Oakland pimps who were plotting his assassination.
I'm sorry, you said Oakland pimps?
Oakland pimps, yep.
Oh, okay.
Pimps that were plotting Huey P. Newton's assassination, and he was tipped off of this by the cops. This is why Huey, when he arrived back to the States, he had the excuse that, well, it wasn't that he just blew trial. He had a good reason. He was in fear for his life. It wasn't that he was just leaving because he didn't want to face up to what he had done. But anyway, so during this time, Elaine Brown steps in and she becomes the head of the Black Panther Party. At least on the face of it, she was still receiving orders from Cuba, from Huey P. Newton and Huey P. Newton. Not to mention the political connections that the Panthers had and the legal connections. They also had connections in the entertainment industry as well. Because Huey P. Newton, a part of what made it easy for him to avoid or to sneak out of the country was due to his Hollywood connections and the resources that he had through that institution, or that milieu of contacts he had working for him there. And so Elaine Brown, yes, her children, were radical. This absolutely common. You think of Angela Davis. You think about a woman like who one of her best friends was another radical leftist. She was a white woman. She wasn't a member of the Panthers, and neither was Angela Davis. She was connected to the Black Panther Party through various members, individuals. But you have a woman like Bettina Aptheker, who was best friends with, or at least very close with Angela Davis. Bettina Aptheker, I believe her father's first name was Herb, if memory serves me correctly, but Herb Aptheker is an icon of the radical American left, an icon. And so Herb Aptheker passed on these ideas to his daughter, Bettina. You have the long line of leftists within the Boudin family, from Louis and Leonard Boudin to Kathy Boudin.
Right.
And so, yes, this was absolutely common. This was absolutely a thing, for sure, that they would pass this down.
Yeah, you know, when I heard that her father was a member of the Black Panther Party, I feel like everything just clicked for me. Like it was like, this makes so much sense because have schooled us so much on our Sunday show, Cutting Through the Culture, where we've learned, you know, so much about the Black Panther Party, so much about the NAACP and, you know, SNCC and all of these groups.
Mhm.
And when now that I am educated on this, when I hear that her father, Fani Willis's father, was a member of the Black Panther Party, and I see her movement, it really makes sense for her to be this so-called, you know, because they like to just say that, oh, we're just civil rights activists. You know, they kind of, now they've moved away, you know, they don't have these separate groups. Now everybody's just magically become a civil rights activist, but really they are far left radical communists.
Yeah,
In my opinion.
Oh, no.
You know, and so, but you can see their sort of their upgrade from the Black Panther Party and these, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, NAACP, they're still around, but you see them how they have maneuver their way into these DAs and into these political positions or attorneys, and they've kind of leveled up, you know, so as to be hidden in plain sight, but still advancing their communist agenda. And so, you know, I think that we have to be careful when we see these people presenting themselves as some civil rights activists and not just going along with that, but really kind of digging into the background of these people to see what their motives really are. And so, you know, because they believe that the American system is terrible, it needs to be torn down, and you know, so they can institute their revolution. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I know we don't have too much more time. I don't know how long you plan on speaking to me, so I just want to make sure I get certain things out.
Yeah,
because people need to really understand the connections between the radical left and, you know, what is, you know, today considered to be the, I guess, the sort of mainstream left of the Democrat Party. You know, and there's a particular incident that really led to, I mean, you know, when Huey was away, and, you know, during that time in the 1970s is when you really began to see, and it's somewhat difficult to really pinpoint the moment when it all happened. I know a lot of people look to the 1968 riot at the Democrat National Convention when they say that was the official, I guess, the coup, for lack of a better terms, of the Democrat Party. But, you know, in the 1970s, under the headship of Elaine Brown, is when you really began to see, due to her kind of, you know, kind of feminine charm, almost feminist mystique, but due to her, like, feminist, not feminine, well, perhaps she was a feminist. Well, yeah, she's considered like
probably.
Well, yeah, well, no, Elaine Brown, as a matter of fact, especially when in about, I think it was 93, when she published her autobiography, Taste of Power, you know, she was really sort of held up there as this feminist icon. But it was due to her, you know, ability. I guess she was a bit more, you know, charming and amicable than, say, you know, someone like a Huey P. Newton, and she was able to deceive a lot of people. And at this point, you know, this is when a lot of Democrat Party politicians in the city of Oakland really began to sort of connect with her, because they knew that the Black Panther Party controlled the people. The Black Panther Party controlled the streets.
Right.
And so they began to say, well, if we're going to get elected locally, then we need the support of the community. And who do the folks in the community look up to? Well, they look up to Elaine Brown and her organization. And at this particular time, this is when they opened up their I forgot what it was called, but it was like the I don't think they called it the Black Panther Party Learning Center, because they wanted to sort of make it seem like this was something that was for all of the people and not simply some Black Panther Party hangout spot or some kind of
Mhm.
Black Panther Party outlet. This is when when folks like to talk about the community efforts and the breakfast programs and all this
Right.
stuff, because at that point, by the early to mid 70s, Huey P. Newton, because he was a dictator, make no mistake about it, in every single
Mhm.
solitary Black Panther
A
Party
brutal one
chapter.
at that.
Yeah, in every Black Panther Party chapter all over the country, had to, they, had to heed his orders. He was the Black Panther Party Minister of Defense, technically. But yeah, so when Huey called for the Black Panther Party to put down the gun, was the order to put down the gun and help the community. This was the
Mhm.
tagline. That's when they started to put up this facade like they were really like for the community. Now,
Okay.
this caused, of course, a rift inside the Black Panther Party, because some Black Panthers believed that Huey had betrayed the revolution by calling off the armed struggle.
Mm.
This, of course, led to the splinter faction that became known as the Black Liberation Army.
Mm.
But to kind of pivot back to the point with Elaine Brown, now with this community center, they would the government, now mind you, this is the Black Panther Party. I know we are told that these are oppressed political
Mhm.
revolutionaries, they're
Mhm.
activists and all this stuff. They're against the establishment. Well, the Black Panther Party was able to achieve, or what's the word I'm looking for? They were able to establish their 501c3 status, is what I'm saying. So they became,
Okay.
through their community central organization, they became a nonprofit. This particular, community center, learning center
Mhm.
that they ran.
Yeah.
And so everyone knows, and I know your audience, your smart audience knows that once you achieve your 501c3 status, you're able to receive federal grants. Federal
Mhm.
grants are taxpayer set asides that the
Yep.
government allocates to other organizations to, do work that is meant to improve, the community.
Right.
And so the Black Panther Party was receiving federal grants, taking that money, and they were using that money to fund their lavish lifestyles, especially like Elaine Brown and Huey P. Newton and many of the other top ranking members in the party was using taxpayer money to fund their lavish lifestyles. And the community center was also used as a front for shakedowns and their drug distribution operation. And so
Wow.
you had local top politicians or aspiring politicians who knew exactly what was going on. Of course, one-time governor of California, Jerry Brown. It
Mhm.
is said by many who have studied the Panthers, who, going back to the 70s, say, without the help of the Black Panthers all across the state of California, because they had Oakland, San Francisco, you had your Los Angeles chapter,
Mhm.
who, and again, sometimes they would come into conflict with one another. Hence the case of the downfall of Geronimo Pratt. You had back and forth between, but by and large, the Black community, we all know, just as a general rule, without the Black community, to a large extent, the Democrat Party would be a dead operation. And
Right.
so this is what you had with the Black Panther Party in the city of California.
Mm.
The Black Panther Party, they helped elect Oakland's first Black mayor in Lionel Wilson.
Mm.
Yeah,
Was he
so
radical? He was radical?
yeah, absolutely. And then by the mid to late 70s into the 80s, of course, we saw the likes of, Maxine Waters. The Black Panther Party during the 1970s had support from men like Ron Dellums. Ron Dellums was a radical. As a matter of fact, I think, Ron Dellums, he's trying to remember. I don't know around the time he was born. I think he was born around the 1930s. He's older than Huey P. Newton, but he and Huey P. Newton both attended the same high school.
Oh,
But
wow. Okay.
yes, Ron Dellums, he was elected to the United States House of Representatives. I think it was 1971.
Mm.
You had a ton of by the 1970s, again, you began to see these radical,
Mhm.
diehard doctrinaire Marxists being elected to various state city mayors,
Mm-hmm.
state and the state legislature, the United
Yeah.
States legislature,
Yeah.
radical feminists like Bella Abzug from New York City. Bella Abzug is one who is just, you talk about just an evil, vitriolic, just,
Mm.
yes, so there were many. And so
Yeah.
now, yep. And so, and so Elaine Brown pretty much, now I'll cede it to you. I know you probably have a comment or a question. Um, Elaine Brown, she was sort of like the de facto mayor of the city of Oakland. Quite frankly, I think she even ran for city council at one point and received like 40% of the vote. And Elaine Brown, she was a stone cold killer
Mm-hmm.
herself. And
Yeah.
then, just to add insult to injury, when Huey P. Newton came back from Cuba in 1977, he received the Citizenship Award. He was granted the Citizenship Award by another Democrat politician named Tom Bates. He was an assemblyman at the time, and Tom Bates went on to become the mayor of Berkeley. I think he succeeded because his wife, the wife of Tom Bates, her name was Lonnie. I can't remember her maiden name, but I think she went on to go by her maiden name, being the
Mm-hmm.
leftist that she was. She
Mm-hmm.
too was once the mayor of Berkeley. So they're giving Huey P. Newton citizenship awards,
Wow.
after not just the original killing of John Fry that turned Huey P. Newton into a cause celeb, but he was also under investigation for pistol whipping a man named Preston Callins, and he had also been, I think, by that time, indicted for killing Kathleen Smith. And
Mm-mm.
also, I'm sorry, but
No, no,
and
no.
also
This is good. Go ahead.
Elaine Brown, again, as head of the Black Panther Party. Mind you, all of these politicians, and they knew what was going on, but
Right.
but especially like the law enforcement, like the politicians, they're seeking power.
Mm-hmm.
We know what politicians do,
Mm-hmm.
but the local police force, chiefs and lieutenant sergeants, guys on the beat, whatever, black, white, doesn't matter. They knew very well that the Black Panther Party was a criminal organization,
Mm-hmm.
but it
Mm-hmm.
was thanks to the activists and the intellectuals and the politicians that give them cover. Law
Right.
enforcement, their hands were tied, and Huey P. Newton, he became the kingpin of Oakland crime, and he was pretty much an untouchable man. But in 1976, Elaine Brown, she was one of the state Democrat Party delegates on behalf of Jerry Brown in 1976.
This is incredible. So it sounds to me that Fanny literally already has the blueprint to to maneuver inconspicuously, hide her real agenda. She already has a blueprint from her father via being a member of the Black Panther Party, and I'm sure him telling all these things to her. One last question before you go. What is the difference? Okay, so when I was trying to find information on this, her father, John C. Floyd the third, John Clifford Floyd, to be more exact. It seems like there was a distinction between the Black Panther Party and the Black Panther political party. Are those two different things that you know of, or is it just kind of people
Not,
mincing?
not that I know of. It just sounds
Okay.
like maybe they're just, mincing words, trying
Okay.
to, and that's one of the things that, the tactic that the left does, and not just, talking to organizations like the Black Panthers, but I mean, just when you're talking international
Yeah.
communist intrigue, they are so good at doing this,
Mhm.
and they're good at doing what they call, this is their part of their front tactic. They are good at combining themselves with other sort of non-militant organizations, right? And they
Mhm.
sort of soak up their legitimacy, and the non-militant organizations give these Marxists cover by defending their civil rights. You understand? And so you have a lot of, just dyed in the wool, bleeding heart liberals, as we call them, would oftentimes come to the defense of these radicals under the pretense that, an attack on them or whatever would be an attack on their civil rights. But they do kind of go, it's like, well, we're the black, because, I think the original full name of the Black Panther Party was the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. And they just became known as the Black Panthers or the Black Panther Party. And then, then again, and quite frankly, whether they have a name like the Black Panther political party, I mean, basically, the Democrat Party, quite frankly, especially in Oakland, and I can guarantee you they operated the exact same way across America, from Detroit to Chicago. The communist presence in Chicago, of course, as we all know, if you know your history of the Communist Party, has been heavy since the 1910s, and so they played a great role in. As a matter of fact, when it came to many of these Black mayors that became, that were hoisted up and thrown into political superstardom, many of them had the backing of of these radicals. Most certainly, for sure. They couldn't have gotten elected without them.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up Chicago, because you're right. Like, there are so many of these radicals. It's almost like you gotta go through Chicago in order to to get your stripes. Not forgetting to mention the infamous, I would say, Barack Hussein Obama. But and Saul Alinsky, and we can name all the radicals. Oh, go ahead.
Before you let me go, and just what really sort of soured the Democrat Party, so they claim, and Willie Brown, the man who with Kamala Harris and their little thing, he was involved in all that stuff. But what really, I guess, sort of severed Elaine Brown and kind of dimmed her political star, because again, Elaine Brown had so much power that, I mean, she was able to change and rearrange, I guess, local regulations. Like, we know, I mean, of course, back then in the 1970s, California was still a reliable a red state, again, but this was like a couple of years after the Hart Act, when what year, I forgot what year that was, but it wasn't too long after that. So the demographics of California hadn't really radically changed yet, although it was sort of like a slow drip. But there was still some, a lot of local state regulations there that prevented certain projects and this and that, certain freeways and highways. But Elaine Brown, she had the ability. There was one situation of a highway, and I think the Sacramento area known as the what was it called, the Grove Shafter Freeway in the San Francisco area. That particular project was being blocked by environmentalists, and Elaine Brown was able to get that freeway built. And it was because, and this is what politicians do, right? They send the gangsters, and politicians would do that vis-a-vis their unions that were controlled by organized crime, especially in hubs like of political corruption, like in New York City. Elaine Brown was through hook or crook, and probably by crook, she was able to get the environmentalists to back off and get the Grove Shafter Freeway constructed. Now, as a payoff for her being able to do that, she was then able to control who would in fact be given a job to work on the new project. So you had Elaine Brown, she was basically able to single-handedly determine, of those 15,000 or so jobs that was created thanks to this project, she was able to determine who got the work and who didn't get the work.
Wow.
And it's sort of a similar thing to what, Kwame Kilpatrick, the
Mhm.
the fallen, disgraced. Well, he isn't disgraced depending upon who you ask.
Right.
He's sort of like this martyr, this sympathetic figure now,
Mhm.
but that's black folks.
Okay.
But yeah, that's goes to show how powerful Elaine Brown and the
Wow.
Black Panthers were.
Yeah.
And Huey had contacts in Hollywood. He knew Richard Pryor, all of them. He even
Mhm.
had a script in the works to produce this musical rendition of Porgy and Bess, where his plan, this is Huey P. Newton now, his plan was to have Mick Jagger and Stevie Wonder play the two main roles. But
Wow.
it never got off the ground. But Huey claimed that the reason why Stevie Wonder didn't collaborate with him on this project is because people close to Stevie Wonder had bad-mouthed Huey to Stevie, and so Stevie backed off. But
Mm.
UP Newton UP Newton had a lot of power. The Black Panther Party as an
Yeah.
organization had a lot of power in
Yeah.
politics, in law, and everywhere. Oh yeah, now, golly, I'm sorry. This is
No,
a Keisha.
go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna
Please.
one of was it Willie Brown, Jerry? I'm trying to, because again, because Jerry Brown, I always get my Jerrys and my Willies mixed up.
Yeah.
But Tom Klein, I think it was Jerry, but Tom Klein, who was a sometime lawyer
Mm-hmm.
for the Black Panther Party, was also Jerry Brown's college roommate. And Jerry Brown, again, was once the governor of the entire state of California. His old roommate was a lawyer for the Black Panther Party.
Wow.
And also, I think at some point, Tom Klein actually became a member of Jerry Brown's cabinet. And Tom Klein was literally the Black Panther Party lawyer. I'm like, I got me wanting to look it up, because now I'm like,
but this is how they operate. They keep their circle close, and they keep it tight, and they're like, they maneuver within each, they like set each other up. Okay, you're going to go and run for this. You're going to go and run for that. Like, we're going to create like our defense system, basically, so that when we need help over here in law enforcement, we can call this person. When we need help in, for political reasons, we can call these people. When we need people on the ground, you can't. That's a smart thing to do, when you're trying to run an organization. We would want these things to be done righteously, but unfortunately, many times people don't do those things.
Nevertheless, many of these men were never brought to justice for the crimes that they committed. And once again, it's because of the ideological sympathizers in our government and all throughout our system who actually agree with them. See them as victims and as revolutionaries, and not the stone cold killers that they were.
Yeah. Man, if you guys want to find out more information on the Black Panther Party, Chuck does an entire expose. I'll put those links below. Also, we did an expose on Martin Luther King and his communist ties. So I would encourage you to go check that out. I feel like, my instincts were right because when I saw that Black Panther Party, now I am going to go and dig even further into her background and who is connected with her. So I'm super interested to dig more into this. Chuck, thank you so much. Tell everyone where they can find your content and anything else you want to share with the audience.
You can find me on Teach 'em Chuck, Teach with the apostrophe EM Chuck on YouTube and Instagram. My homegirl here, Quisha King, every Sunday come to the culture. I'm sure you guys, if you watch Quisha's content, I'm sure you watch our weekly show as well. And if you familiar with Quisha, you like Quisha, you probably gonna have to get used to seeing my mug, because this isn't the last time Quisha and I will be collaborating and together and doing all that good stuff.
And thank you so much for joining me. I knew this was going to be fantastic and very enlightening for, as always, I always learn something when
Didn't
I'm
even scratch
talking
the
to you
surface.
and for the audience.
Didn't even scratch the surface, Quisha. Didn't even
I know,
scratch the
I
surface.
know. I could tell. I could see your mind like where do I want to go with this? Like what trying to pick and choose because there is so much information about these groups that we have been just fed a whole bunch of lies about, and people just really don't know who they really were and how much they have infiltrated the United States government and the destruction that they have caused in the past and their continued destruction that they plan to cause in the future. But thank you so much for joining me. Chuck, you guys make sure you go and check out his work. You will not regret it. Okay. So another thank you to Chuck for gracing us with his presence and helping us get more insight into the Black Panther Party, how they move, how they operate. What do you guys think? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Am I just like blowing this out of proportion, or do you think that there might be something else sinister there? I would love to hear what you have to say. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.